Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal guide. Whoops, gotta be. The journey continues today on March 5th, 2023 at approximately 4:24 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day to day life, and the philosophies I talk about are the ones I personally live by. Okay, now today is an open floor. In other words, I don't actually have a primary topic that I'm working on. So, if you have a question, if you got in any field at all, come right out and ask me. Okay, that's the easiest way to do it. And we have coming in with the gold, we have Chad right off the bat. How you doing, Chad? For whatever reason, as you can tell, my throat is seized up already. That being said, we're going to carry on. Hey, John, how we doing? And John comes in. What pray tell is going on here? John comes in with the silver. And Nathan is in with the bronze. And we have Joe coming in hot behind everybody with honorable mention. It is going to be, things are picking up really quick here, which is absolutely fantastic. I would love to know why my throat feels locked up, but what the heck. So we'll see how that goes. Now, would you mind actually showing me what's going on here? Got that all closed down, and anytime you're ready, that would be really convenient. Referring to my computer here with the other screen available. Only it is absolutely not giving me what I want. Oh well, that's the way that goes. So hopefully your guys' day has gone well. I just love when computers work right. I just wish they'd happen more often. So how about if we refresh that and see if that helps? But just got finished my game. Well, got finished at about 3 o'clock, and then decided apparently that grabbing a nap was a really good idea. I'm starting to debate that was such a great idea. Okay, my screen is not doing what it should be. There we go. About time that worked out. Oh, I'm feeling fine as far as that goes. I'm just noticing a real bizarre setup in my throat. That's a bizarre question. Nathan here is just going, do your drinks have corn syrup in it? I think Canada drinks don't have it, only USA ones. I don't know. What I'm drinking right now is this funny thing here. Pretty sure that makes total sense. But, what the heck? And just looking at this now, where is that other little screen of mine? There. Now, Chad is the first, and the funny thing is, I just about was late getting in here, which may explain part of the problem. But because of the fact I am a little late, Chad, you're first through the door here. So let's get a link up to Chad's. Well, did we not actually do that? We did not, of course. Starting everything off right and didn't even get that sent. Okay, this is the link to Chad's channel. And absolutely, where do we go? We desire, nothing is working. I'll tell you, I would love it if my computer were actually going to cooperate today. But it looks like we could have some fun with that. So, Nathan, where are we? Nathan, there you go. Yeah, I'm looking for Nathan, and that is not the way that goes. This here is the Quantum Show. And yeah, as we can tell, things are going to be a little interesting. There you go. Now, that's the first two. There's a whole pile of other ones I've been working with. The nice part about it is I was working on, I was gaming today, so that went well. Hopefully things will balance out. Now, what do we got? Sure. Close that down. And saw something here. Okay, just going back up to make sure I got whatever questions are coming through the door here. Okay. Oh, I missed the show last night altogether. That's where the biggest problem was. Now, Joe's asking, can red lights move depending on what they are? It depends entirely on what red lights are you're referring to seeing there, Joe. Or did you put a question up there earlier? Hello, just scanning through. Yeah, you really don't want, Chad just goes, I like to imagine our key setup looks like nuclear launch facility. That's always an interesting viewpoint. Not necessarily a good idea on some days, but no, I actually, because with my laptop, it has I cannot feel the buttons properly on my laptop, so I've got one of the plug-in adapted keyboards to be able to work with it. But yeah, see, that's the neat part. Even when and this is why I go sideways on this one. Even when I look at this, you'll be happy to know, guys, when we talk about the fall that happened with the birth of the Wolfpack, with the whole Yldrbacian Chronicles, it was not caused by, no part of it was brought about by nuclear holocaust. Had all sorts of other neat ways of dealing with it. Hey Jake, how you doing? Didn't see you come in, which today is not an entire shock. Okay, but yeah, I'm looking at this here, Joe, and Joe's gone. Can red lights move depending on what they are? Now I will tell you this. Quite often, what I've seen is when you're watching satellites, most of the satellites that I've seen have a red light, but it's always traveling in a very definitive, very straight path. There's no variation in speed, no variation in trajectory. So if you're watching a red light that is traveling in a straight line, okay, what you got to look for. Now, as far as I understand it, satellites either go east to west, and don't ask me if going that direction is east. They either go east to west in a steady circle, or north to south. Now, if you're watching a red light, Carlito, how you doing? Glad you could join us. If you're watching a red light that's traveling in a steady pattern like this, and then all of a sudden doubles back and goes forward again, this is not a satellite. Okay, same as if you watch one that's traveling along really nice and slow, and then all of a sudden takes off like a bat. Okay, or traveling real slow, and then all of a sudden pulls a 90 degree. These are not satellite trajectories. Okay. We take a look at that. So will red lights change direction? Certainly, but not at the speed that UFOs do. That's for absolutely, if it's a UFO, it won't hold an absolutely static pattern. The other thing I've noticed is you watch a single light, and all of a sudden it spans out in several. This is not a Terran maneuver, not from anything I've ever seen. Now, where are we here? Of course, figures I wouldn't bring that out. But when I take a look at it, like I had a lot going on today. Never mind the writing. This is why when you get one of these shows up and running, last thing you want to do is come flying in at the last minute and go, whoop, let's get the door open. This is what's called operating and trying to catch up at the same time. Okay. Now, I've looked at this, like I love this. When I take a look at nukes, people take a look at this whole idea of war. And the thing you got to remember is first and foremost, war has one rule, and it does not end with peace. War never has brought peace in all of recorded history. What war has brought is quiet. Okay, and that's just the way that works. You think about it. If everybody's shooting at everybody, and the fight comes to a close, is that because all of a sudden everybody reached a peaceable, an amicable solution, or because they ran out of ammo? That's the thing we really have to take a look at where it comes to that side of it. Now, I started getting things organized, and what did I do with it? So what I will be doing today, okay, and I don't mean today while I'm on the show here. And again, guys, if you haven't taken, we'll try English. If you have a question, regardless of the field, do me a favor and write it in put the question in all caps. This is not in my house. This is not called yelling. When I'm on the air like this, if you've got a question, by putting it in all caps. How are we doing, Kimberly? Glad you could join us. Hey, Ozzy, how you doing? So we live through another day, do we? I get a kick out of that, So I've heard people say, oh, if it hits this new day in Australia, we'll manage to, we've lived and we'll live that day. That ain't the way this works. Okay. But, at least we know, the thing I look at there is we know for certainty, almost, that Ozzy is still floating around here, and that Ozzy's still alive. Neat little catch here. In today's world, you can't even be certain of that anymore. Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that to be the case in some ways. But no, what I'm working on, I laid it out. I think it was 33 here. Give me half a sec. 10, 11, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Yeah, as it turns out, and as soon as I get done this particular stream, in between getting this stream done and doing the reading of the Yldrbac Chronicles, and that is actually here today. Oh, of course. Let's go that route. We go over here because I moved the information. Tonight, once I've done this stream at 7:30, I'll be dealing with the prologue and the first part of chapter 1 of The Birth of the Wolf Pack. Oh, Chad, question for you. You referring to on Earth or off Earth? Because, well, guess it really doesn't matter. The answer to both is yes. Okay, but I'll tell you, like I never, even when I was drinking heavily, Never try drinking, and quite frankly, you never try drinking and dwarf under the table. This is just a bad idea. Okay. But always make certain when you're at a bar, off-world, make certain you ask for your drink, as in Terran, whatever. Okay, because if you go surprise me, you're not going to like the outcome. And I've been in bars where people go, what would you like to drink? Oh, just surprise me. You don't want to make that gamble off-world. It just doesn't work well. Oh, Joe goes, and what I could have possibly saw outside my upstairs window a few nights ago, other than the helicopter circling my house all night, was a UFO at the same time. Yeah, in all fairness, Joe, I would be inclined to say absolutely. Okay, if you're watching a red light that is not tracking properly, okay, and that's why you watch. The other one that you watch for is when you're looking at this red light, did it travel along all of a sudden, wink out of existence, and then travel on from the same place? Okay, because picture what happens here. If we take your red light like this, and all of a sudden, whoops, we do it this way, traveling along, and all of a sudden it blinks out of existence and then right back in the same place. Odds are what's happened is something else could have come between your view and that light. Yeah, Chad's going, are aliens just as surprised to see us as we are to see them? Number one, it depends. Okay, if they're coming down to Earth, the answer is absolutely not. They're expecting to see people. Okay, but who is afraid of who more really depends on the individual alien, not what the species is. Hey, Carl, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Aliens on the whole worry about the way humans are, because humans are absolutely, humans are absolutely one of the most volatile and temperamental races that are available right now, because the other ones have already been acclimated to the order of things. Mankind is still of the opinion of, hey, what's this button do? No, it's great on a computer. Okay, you see a computer and you can test this if you want, but have a whole pile of computers available. Okay, take a laptop fully charged and put it on the ground in a not third world country, but for instance, where there's a tribe of, shall we say, underdeveloped, or more to the point, still technologically restricted humans. You take a laptop, and this tribe finds it. Number one, they'll start poking at it, and this is just the way humans figure things out. Okay, they'll start poking at it, poking it, hitting it. Of course, as well as I do, if they take a club into a laptop, the odds are it's not going to work right. Okay, so what ends up happening is people turn around. You put this laptop down, humans will push on it until they get it to do something. Now, after quite a while, they may figure out how to open the laptop up and then eventually figure out how to turn it on. This is assuming they don't destroy it in the first place. Okay. Oh, I'm going to sidetrack myself there. Congratulations, Kimberly. Glad to hear it. Kimberly's just saying she's reached out to Michigan Bigfoot Rob. Okay, they've exchanged numbers. She's just waiting for things to be brought into balance there. That ought to be an interesting conversation for everybody. Everybody that is there to listen in, that's for certain. Now, that being said, I'll go back to that other thing here. Eventually, mankind, an aboriginal, a very technologically restricted individual will figure out what happens. Now, the funny part there, let's take first world humans, i.e., our most advanced people. We push all kinds of buttons. You get an artifact you don't recognize. Run a whole pile of tests. Do a whole pile of push buttoning. Whole pile of pushing buttons. Sooner or later, you'll get that artifact to do something. Now, this is fantastic on Earth. Very little can go really badly wrong. But what happens if you take a human, a curious human, which is pretty much any one of them, put them in a weapons control room in an alien starship, okay, and they start pushing buttons without knowing what they do? Well, let's see what happens if we push this button. I'm telling you, the guns that these guys use in the automated systems, not necessarily going to go over well. Now, Chad's just come out and said, Keith, have you ever fallen in love with an off-worlder? The fact of the matter is, if you refer to this lifetime, no. Okay. If you refer to prior lifetimes, absolutely. Of course, I understand, I have not always been on this world. Not where it comes to past lives. Ozzy just going, I came across a channel called Idaho Bigfoot. Reads out old stories from early settlers. There are so many things there, Ozzy. There are so many tales of events that have taken place. Okay. And we are talking about over history that people just chalked up to being odd. Now, I can tell you this. Okay. The issue, there is one myth that I have heard tale about. Okay. And that myth being, and I believe it was the Lakota Indians, ended up with an off-worlder in their possession. In their care is more to the point. Oh, yeah, Joe, that's quite literally what I said. Okay, and that was the Talons. Okay, the Talons, I better have that name right. So I'm just going to double check myself. Go back to this. There we go. Yep. I did. Yeah, the Talons decided it was a really neat idea. Here's a 3-year-old kid, just a tiny little human. Let's see how far this arm will go before it snaps. Okay, now the side effect of that was if you put your arm out, straight palm up. Okay, now that's always cute. This is a problem I had all my life. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, so let's stand up. Let me show you something really neat. Okay, if I put my hand straight palm out, okay, you'll notice the palm is up as straight as I can get it. Here's the elbow, but if I don't move that wrist and I just fold it, look where the arm goes. Okay, now that little problem, when I was younger, I had never actually been able to reach there because my arm would have been over here somewhere. Okay, I just literally could never feel my shoulder with my right arm. But they broke it so badly. And no, in answer to that neat little question, from what I gather, there's no record of it per se, but you got to remember, most of my memory, most of the events that took place for me, took place on or while in contact with military bases. Okay. Now, yeah, the reality is there, Joe. When I had that run-in, I've always had problems with the Talons. If there's one race I don't get along with, well, that'd be them. And it's because they have no functional interest in communicating, at least not with me. That might have something to do with my attitude towards them. I'm not entirely certain. I'm just looking at what we got here. And Nathan's going, I've been thinking about what you said a while back. I have preconceived notions about who I would meet. Been working on that. And that is very, very much the case. There are so many possibilities out there. Okay. The trick is when you're looking at a life that's a little off kilter, you got to realize you're not the only part of a meeting. The other people have their own preconceived notions as well. Okay. Very much like humans have various different preconceived notions about what different races of humans are. And it took me forever to figure out that when people were telling me that Caucasians, Black people, Oriental people, were all different races, it took me forever to realize that they were actually being accurate about it. Okay. But all of those races are the same species. And this is the thing we have to realize. Hey, JCL, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So what I'm working on right now, well, not right now, but I had a list here, and that's the different books. I've actually got, as it turns out, and I will have all of them laid out to start working on today. Okay. I've actually got, as it turns out, I think 36. I'll have 36 books all at the same time. Okay. Let me just see something here. I'll have 36 books I'm physically actually writing all at once. Let's go in here and see if anything came in because I'm hoping that I end up with a couple of things. Now we go to here. Just hang into my email here for a second to see if I've got anything new that came in. Definitely have to take a look at that. Where are we here? Okay, how about if we see if Chris has anything going on? What do we got? Yes, this is always an interesting little scramble job for me, but what the heck? Okay, we will take a look at that afterwards. Anyway, we should stop doing that, shouldn't we? Okay, Carl, what do we got here? Let's get back to that screen so I can actually see it. And we have Carl. Carl is asking, when one spirit crosses over, does it hang out with all spirits, including ones who were previously alien, or does it stick with its own soul family? Oh no, it usually meets its own soul family first, but then it hangs out with a whole pile, whether human, alien, it doesn't matter. All spirits congregate in this same massive, what you may consider a gala. Okay, where people from every walk of life, terrestrial and otherwise, all gather because it's through those communication lines, through those meetings that people set up, that the soul sets up its next lifetime, which may or may not be on Earth. Okay, now what we're going to do is hold that back so I can actually keep track of it. Okay, so they actually get to meet with all kinds of different ones. Earth, once you pass away, the spirit doesn't worry about who was a different person, because you're now all meeting on the same level, as it were. Okay, you've all got your own preconceived ideas, but it comes from interacting with the rest of them, with the rest of the people, that you finally get to figure out what you're doing next. Okay, but do people connect with their soul family? Yes, they absolutely do, but that's usually on first getting over there, because that's where you get told, okay, welcome back, let's bring you up to speed and just jolt your memory back into a solid base. Now, Kimberly's asking, what are your thoughts of who gets targeted and why? Now, I presume you're referring to I'm thinking we're having a bit of throat mumble here, but I presume, Kimberly, that you're referring to what people, who gets targeted for abduction or for contact, and where that comes into play. Okay, what you're actually looking at is it depends on the race that's reaching out, or on the reason for their contact. And before we go any further down that road, okay, let's eliminate one little detail, and that is that bloodline does not make any functional difference. It does not make you more likely to be picked up. It doesn't make you a better candidate to be taken someplace for better or worse. Blood type simply is a quantifier for a different reason for contact. In other words, if they are doing experiments, if they are doing, research on how an A positive person, an AB positive reacts to certain stimuli or to certain opportunities, then if you're AB positive, you're certainly high on the list of whether or not you're going to be taken because of your blood type. Okay, but does your blood type alone make you a target? Or the other question I keep getting asked is, does your blood type is your blood type indicative of you being descended from an off-worlder? And the answer to that is absolutely, in my opinion, unequivocally no. Blood type is simply a deviation on the human genome. It's that simple. Okay, but they will take a look at, and rest assured, you think Big Brother is watching you is a big thing? Rest assured that the off-worlders are watching a whole lot more frequently. Okay, and paying a lot closer attention to what's going on. This is just a question. I'm striving to understand the xeno-socioeconomic evolutionary pattern of Earth, and to find out how things are happening. Okay, I just scroll down here a bit at a time here. And Ozzy is asking here, where are we? Have you seen a movie? Can we stop that? Yeah, Ozzy's going, have you seen a movie called AD Astra? I think I've heard of it. But no, the answer is, Ozzy, first and foremost, I don't watch cable very often. I actually can at this point, but I think I've heard the name. But I don't think I've actually seen the blurb for it yet. Okay. Hey, the Mac Geek, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I'm still amazed. I still remember a comment you made a while ago. I take a look at the name, the Mac Geek. And when you told me, this is probably a good year ago now, that I've been dealing with IBMs, with the standard IBM computer, and you turned around and said, look, you may do better sticking with it, simply because of the fact that you're comfortable with it. That was not what I would have expected, with your name being the Mac Geek. most people that have that kind of an outlook will stick to their computer and go, this is what you require. Switch to the Mac, it's a better computer. I still, by the way, have not picked up a new computer. Okay, and that's still going to have to wait for a bit. Raven, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Okay. Yeah, Jake's has got he's got a little blurb in here. We came for the Smith brothers. Now, this is where I get a little bit dense. I'm not sure who the Smith brothers are, to be honest with you. Now, what do we got? I'm going to scroll down. There we go. Yeah, that's going to jump it again, isn't it? Nathan just asked something here. I got to leave that. I got to look for that on occasion. Where do we go? Now, oh, there we are. Okay, Nathan asked, how can we defend against abduction? If that were to happen, and if not, be friendly. Well, how can you defend against it? I've only seen it disrupted a few times. Okay, let's eliminate the first thing there, Nathan. No, wearing tinfoil hats does not stop alien abduction. It doesn't even stop them from being able to read your mind. Okay, you got to remember, we're using tinfoil. They're using subquantum communication lines. Tinfoil isn't that good. I mean, tinfoil is a great little product, but the key to being more friendly about it is to realize that if you can wrap your brain around it, and this can be a bit of a problem. I mean, I was witness to one attempted abduction. Only it was an attempted abduction with people around that were capable of jumping the physical boundaries and therefore interrupting the quantum flow. And yes, Nathan, I did go there. Okay, but the only way I know of to disrupt an abduction is you've got to have people around you that are capable of bridging the quantum field. Okay, Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And thereby interrupting it. Okay, as far as how to be more friendly, well, that boils down to do your best to talk to them. And yes, you'll have to settle for human. Okay, don't worry about the language you're speaking because they're going to have the same problem anyway. Okay, let's see, how can we defend against them if that were to happen and not, okay, now I will tell you this. One thing that I have seen happen when you're dealing with Greys doing the abducting, one of the reasons that they bring Nords with them is because humans have this tendency to get really edgy with short little people that are carrying really, really technologically advanced weapons. So humans by nature seem to panic in a real hurry. Okay, now of course there are different things that can happen, but if you do get taken and it is not a friendly setup, understand the odds are you're not in good shape, you're not in a good position. And I will tell you, running off down the hallway is not a good way to get back to where you belong. Because let's face it, this idea of running down a hallway and slapping a panel because it looks like it's an access panel, this may not be wise. Because what you might do is open an airlock. And I'll tell you, if you think the abduction was bad, try for a quick little stroll in outer space without any sort of protection. Okay, from that standpoint, I just scanned down a little further. I'm not sure how far things have gone here, but I'm just holding the pattern so I can actually catch up. I figured out how to do that sort of thing. Now, I'm just looking here. Ozzy's gone. It's a fascinating concept, the visuals of space travel. Oh yeah, and the way that mankind has portrayed them. You've seen. I'm presuming some of you guys have seen Stargate, and the way they paint that little twist and turn to go from one place to another, going through the Stargate. That's actually reasonably accurate. Okay, it's a great rendition. Bear in mind they're dealing with two-dimensional, and when we are talking about the speed of space travel, light bends. It gets really twisted to the optic nerve. But it is, when they show you the black hole, when they show you the computer rendition of a black hole or of a wormhole, something that they don't show you on a black hole because modern technology cannot do anything with it. Okay, but you've seen with a black hole, everything gets pulled into what looks like a funnel. Okay, basically because we're talking about what humans view as a black hole, as the turbulence that draws it in. What modern tech doesn't show you is coming back out of that same hole while you're seeing everything go in. Is a reverse spout, kind of looks like a water spout, coming up through the center of the hole and fanning out like a fountain. Okay, because black holes are two-way doors. They're two-way funnels that actually facilitate the transition of this version of reality to the next one. Okay, and this is something that is ongoing and completely overlaid. Now, I roll down here a little, and I've got, where are we here? We take a look at, oh yes, Ozzy, the 2001 Space Odyssey, that vehicle that they showed, that ship that they showed that looked rectangular, that is a Corlock ship. Now, the Corlock is a race, of essentially amoebics. Okay, they do not have a physical form. And there is not a human alive that will ever get on board a Corlock ship. Because you got to remember, that ship that you see is solid. Well, it's put together in layers, but it runs on the bioelectric field of the Corlock race. Okay, because what they do is they don't walk down the halls, they flow between the layers. They don't have a physical form. And their bioelectric and their biomagnetoelectric field is what generates and what operates that whole ship. Humans can't get on board it. Okay, it's just that simple. Now, we just take a look at that. Let's see what else we got going down here. Yeah, it is. I noticed that too, Shadow. Oh, speaking of which, I overlooked that, and my apologies. We will take this and we go. This is Shadow Show, Shadow and Son. I'll tell you, where it comes to figures and what have you, he's got some really neat things that he works with. So we go there and we go, okay. And this is the link. And again, guys, take a look at the channel. If you like what you see or you like what you're hearing about, absolutely give him a thumbs up. Okay. Give him a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel. I try and get in there periodically, but I'll tell you, my schedule gets absolutely screwballed. Where are we? Now, we are sitting, what do we got in, we were for a little bit, I think we got up to 22 here today. But the nice part about this, and this is why I say, then today is one of those days, just kind of goes all over a hex half acre. Okay, And again, if you haven't done so already, if you do like the stream, do me a favor and give us a thumbs up. Okay. I checked with Dave the other day from Spaced Out Radio. Okay, and we should bring that up because, well, that's what we're doing today. Is as we see things come into play. I was talking to him the other day, and it turns out that we are already halfway to the monetization factor on this channel. Okay, this is Dave's show. Okay, I'm sitting right now at, let's shorten that, at 477 subscribers. I've already, as of yesterday or the day before, I had 5,800 hours of viewing. I only need 4,000, which means I've already hit that barrier. Okay, so in time, I will get there. In the meantime, in between time, let's us have fun. That's a really bad rendition, but hey, what the heck? I already double checked, and you're more than welcome there, Shadow. I already double checked with, did I bring one down here? Oh, wouldn't you know it? The answer is no. I brought half of it down, not the other half. But I took a look, I talked to Dave and found out that we've got one of the check marks already in place. Okay, which is great from my standpoint. So when I get done this stream, I've got to get a number of things sorted around. And what do we got here? Just scroll down a bit because I don't know how far down it goes, but that's okay. Oh. Yeah, YJ's just passed on. Raven, I checked out the portal video. The portal video after my analysis is legit. Now, I think somebody sent me a picture of that at one point, if it's what I'm thinking. Okay. Where it comes to portals, they are absolutely a fascinating study field. They really are. Okay. And hey, Christine, glad you could join us. I am looking at a whole pile of changes taking place, not the least of which tomorrow's Monday. So I will start looking for a lawyer that I can actually deal with and get the proper paperwork in place to make things happen with the publishing side of what I'm dealing with. Okay. But yeah, I was looking a little earlier to see if I've got the newest rendition of pictures done. But we are absolutely making headway on that. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do my best not to, but I will tell you, in all fairness, falling into a hole is not a big problem there, Christine. Very, very, very few people have ever died because of a fall. It's always that sudden stop when you get to the bottom. Well, almost always that sudden stop that screws up people's metabolisms. Raven, that would be absolutely appreciated. I can tell you, I'll tell you right now, I am not a video analyst, but I will be able to tell you if what I'm looking at is the way that a portal, from my experience, is portrayed, if you will. Yeah, the thing with tonight being an open field, if you've got a question in any field, doesn't matter what it is, put your question in all caps. Would be absolutely appreciated because it makes it so much easier for me to find it. Now, the nice little part about that is when you put it in all caps, in texting communication, putting something in all caps is apparently akin to yelling. Okay. But the neat little part about it, in my house, this boils down to, hey, I've got a question. Can you note that I've got my hand up? That's what it boils down to. Okay. And that's why I ask you to put it in all caps. Although somebody put it in here earlier. And of course, my memory being as sound as it is. Where was it? Because somebody wrote it in. Okay. Somebody wrote in all caps, question. And then put the question in smaller. Well, putting your hand up and just typing question in all caps does exactly the same thing. And it's pretty much compromised in my eyes. Okay. A vortex, Joe, it's a link between locations. Okay, and when I mean locations, picture, if you will, the spot in front of a vacuum cleaner hose. When you turn the vacuum on and the air starts getting sucked in, okay, the vortex is that rotating pull. That's the form that takes place when you watch the material enter that tube. Okay, a vortex in the material world can create all kinds of havoc. You know, like I was actually called in to look at a problem. Had a girl call me up, and she started off by apologizing for actually phoning me at all because I was working on a psychic line at the time. And she goes, "Look, I'm really sorry to call you. I know it's a sin to call you because I'm a staunch Roman Catholic. And dealing with UFOs, that is sacrilege." But she goes, "Really weird things are happening in my house right now. And I don't know what to do about it. I can't phone my priest." So here I am. I'm hoping I'm not going to get in trouble. Here I am. I'm sinning by contacting you because I don't know what to do. So I says, "Okay, well, let's settle your mind for a little bit. First of all, God, the God that you have been raised to believe in, okay, by your teachings, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were taught that God created everything." And she goes, "Well, yeah." I said, "Okay, well, understand. The fact that mankind does not understand everything that is created does not mean it's evil. It just means that it is something beyond human ken." I said, "That's first and foremost. Now, the fact that a priest that is supposed to be helping you deal with things that are beyond human ken makes me question how good of a grip the priest had on their teaching, on their belief structure." I said, "That's first and foremost. And here's where it gets a little funky." Okay, because I turned around and told this louse, I said, "The other aspect of this is that I am also a minister myself. I was baptized Roman Catholic, raised Protestant, had a falling out with the church and became agnostic, meaning I gave up on believing in the teachings of the religious venues. Then I turned around and became an actual minister." Okay, and in answer to that wonderful question, I'm actually a minister with the Universal Life Church, based out of Calgary, out of California in the United States. Okay, they don't even recognize it up here, which is fine. I'm not looking to start a church anyway. All I'm looking to do, and all I'm actually here to do, is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, there are many of you that will undoubtedly fight it. Well, there are many people out there that will undoubtedly fight it. Okay, but the reality is they can argue it all they want. It's kind of like arguing whether gravity works. Sad to say, you can argue it, you're still going to bounce. Now, what do we got here? Okay, just scanning down a little, and we have YJ's got, "I got predators from the." Oh, what do we got? Now, here's a neat little thing. This comment that YJ has made, okay, about the creature inside the portal. Now, I saw one the other day that somebody showed me. Okay, the picture that somebody sent me a clip of a orb with what they said looked like a worm. Okay, now I will tell you, okay, that that may well be what it looked like. I don't know what was inside that, but I can tell you this: you can, if you see a vortex from the right angle, you can actually witness if things happening inside it, but it will stretch your limits. Okay. So I mean, we are looking at a whole lot of things because you got to remember, whatever you're looking at, whether we are talking a story, a movie, something you see in real life, okay, and we'll call it real life for lack of a better term. Okay, whatever you're witness to, this is literally what your mind is going to interpret based on its own experience. Okay. Now, you made the comment here. Where are we here? YJ goes, I got predator vibes from the being. Now, here's the thing. I can actually show you that. Because this one I actually did find. Go here to release forms row art. Yep. These are only some of the pictures that I've gotten done. I haven't actually gone and printed them out yet, and the others out yet. Yeah, sure, I don't have all of them. Well, that's only got the one. Where did the rest go? Well, that figures. I was going to show you a picture now when we talk about the predator type critter. Okay, if you think about the show Predator, that critter is based on the Muldock. Okay, which are an interesting race. Violent as all get out, but what the heck? Okay, now, yeah, I'm going to get up and move. I was asked by my son if I actually get up and move around this much because I have to. I'm thinking, well, only in a manner of speaking. Oh, look at that. Put it in a different file. Here we go. Now take a look at this neat little critter. Okay, told you I had it floating around somewhere. Now, the critter from Predator. Okay, this is what they're based on. That's your Muldock. Okay, now, is this picture actually shown? This is a picture that is in the second printing of Races of the Worlds. Okay, but you'll notice the split jaw on the bottom end. Okay, bring that a little closer for you. There you go. Not a pleasant group of people, and just take a look at the talons. Okay, I don't know, no, didn't go down to the feet, so that's okay. But this is literally the picture that is in, this is the Muldock, what the Predator was based on. And yeah, I got a whole pile of other ones here that I've been working with. I showed them on an earlier video. Okay. Now, this little issue here. Now, here's a picture just because I'm going through it. That is a picture of your Angelus, and you can see why people call them angels. Okay. This is another race. They are not human by any functional stretch. And aside from past lives, they are not people that are human and transformed into this. This is a race unto itself. Okay. Now, Raven, and I don't know how far down the road this goes. Okay. Take that, put that over there. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, now, Raven, you were asking, can I tell you more about Mobius? Okay, about 50,000 years ago, mankind, well, the Mobians, what was then mankind, had 100%. We had over 10 billion people on the planet. Okay, so we didn't have a shortage we had no shortage of land. There was no war, no famine, no jealousy, because mankind was globally linked on a mental level. If you desired to talk to a friend of yours in Australia, in what amounted to Australia, okay, if you desired to talk to somebody in Australia, we did not require computers, we didn't require a telephone. We just simply thought about it because we were completely linked, not a hive mind, but a joined mind. We had full access to the neural net. Now, this is 50,000 years ago. Now, I know there are people that are going to listen to this and go, but that's not possible because mankind hasn't been alive that long. They've only, as a matter of fact, they had somebody in here the other day that humans had only been around for 6,000 years. Well, that creates all kinds of interesting questions. But mankind at that point, if we desired something to eat, okay, you think about it, and for instance, I desire an apple, and all of a sudden an apple would materialize in your hand. Now you're ready to eat it. Okay, it became a question of whether or not you desire to experience it, because the same capacity we could absorb, we could create using what we now call 0 point energy. We could create the nutrients necessary to survive. Now, there is a group of people that in today's world that refer to themselves as breatharians, meaning they survive by simply breathing. Well, mankind 50,000 years ago had that capacity, okay, where they just simply thought about the necessity of whatever it was their body was lacking, and their body reproduced it. Okay, it literally created it. Now, because we were mentally linked, everything we created was held together through mental cohesion. So the way we ended up with all of our stuff and no trace of the society itself. Okay, because you're talking about a society that made our modern day society look like it was still in the Dark Ages. Okay, if we desired a place to live, we went, I'm going to live here, and I've got a spot that isn't occupied. Okay, and by the way, no such thing as rent or rent increases. You simply had a place, that's where you lived in your shelter. And that was because mankind still held on to the concept at that point that we had luxuries, you desire to come from a place to sit. Not just a way of thinking about it and going, gee, I can imagine sitting there. Mankind's imagination had evolved to a staggering level. But because we were mentally linked, if one person was going to sleep, somebody else would simply hold that image. And it was done very subconsciously. Somebody would hold that image and it would stay in place. Now, that was 50,000 years ago. And there was a group of what were at that point still known as humans. Okay. But they went, we've got all this going on, but I desire to experience something a little different. So a bunch of them got together, okay, from all walks of life, and went, well, gee, let's go to another planet. So they concocted a mentally cohesively created vehicle, okay, a starship capable of physically taking them to another planet. Okay, now that planet, and they already knew about this from other things they'd done. Okay, on the other side of the moon, in the exact same orbit as Earth. Okay, and that's a whole story in itself, how that came to be. But we're going to stick with the Mobians themselves. Okay, the exact same orbit as Earth, traveling at the exact same speed, containing the exact same, the exact same daily orbit or daily spin, was on the other side of the moon, on the other side of the Earth, in an absolute balance point. So between Earth, you've got Mobius here, you've got Earth here, and the sun basically where my head is. Now, I'll tell you, if I could make my hands go all the way around, I would, if only to confuse people. But because they travel at the same speed, you will never, ever, ever see Mobius from Earth. I can tell you that they have the information on it on the website and in NASA. Whether you can find it or not anymore, I don't know. I stumbled across it some 30 years ago, and they may well have locked it down so you can't find it now. Okay, but they went over there and carried on with life that way. They still, to this day, have that capacity. Okay, but as time went on over the next 10,000 years, the humans at that point, and by the way, the civilization was referred to as Lemuria. Okay, these are the Lemurians that we're talking about from way back. Okay, now with the Lemurian Empire, and like I said, we are talking a global empire, over 10 billion strong. Okay, they absolutely know about us on Earth. The reality is that Mobians are, the Mobians are descended from Earth and from Earthlings. Okay, and yes, they still come and go. As a matter of fact, I wonder if I've got one. I don't know if I've got it here. So let me just double check. Of course, my hands aren't going to work right, so that always gets fun. Trying to fan through some very, very loose paper. But I'm going to do something here if it's not in here already. Nope. Okay. But that in and of itself is not a big problem. So what we do is this. I get up, I walk over here to this funny little spot and close that. Do we have, yep, right there, that'll work. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. Okay, but let's take a peek and see what we can do. And again, my apologies, guys, but my art is not something I would write nice things home about. Whoop, turn that around, and what we do is this. Again, I'm going to have to really ask you to forgive the way that the real lack of artistic capacity here. I am not going to go and tell you this is fantastic art. In fact, I'll tell you flat out, I think it's garbage. But it does get the point across. Whoop, should have done that. Might as well add it to my wonderfully inept repertoire. And just put this, and then I can actually add it to my file. But anybody out there see a ship that looks like this? Okay, and again, pardon it, pardon my drawing, but that is a Mobian ship. Okay, now about 20 years ago, I saw one of these things show up over top of the downtown core of Kelowna, where I was living. Still am living here, just not in the downtown core. Okay. But I spotted this thing hovering overhead. So what did I do? There was a real estate agent handy, and he asked me, I called him over. I says, "Can I borrow your eyes for a minute?" He looks at me and goes, "My eyes?" I says, "Yeah." I says, "Mine don't necessarily work great." So I pointed in the sky. This thing was solid black. Okay. I pointed up the sky and I said, "What's that?" This guy looks at it and he takes his own glasses off for a second and he goes, "Well, I see it." I said, "Gee, I'm glad to hear that." Bear in mind, this was in a blue cloudless sky. Okay. So he goes, "I see it." I said, "That's a great start." I says, "Now, with that in mind, what is it?" He goes, "Well," and bear in mind, this thing was up there and it was turning literally. Now, bear in mind, it was sitting this way, but we'll do it this way. I'm looking at it from below. I have no idea how high up it was, but it was slowly turning like this. Okay, I'm watching it do this. The guy looks at it. And it's not going horizontally at all, nor is it getting bigger or smaller. So I could only surmise it was hovering and spinning, much like the Hawker Siddeley Harrier. And the guy, I says, "Okay, what is it?" He says, "Well, it's not an airplane, it's not an ultralight, it's not a helicopter, it's not a hang glider, it's not it's not a parachute. It's not an aerial parachute, like an acrobatic parachute." He goes, "It's not somebody free falling, right?" Excuse me. He goes, "It's not an airliner. It's not a military vehicle I've ever seen." I said, "Okay, so what is it?" He says, "I don't know." Okay, but I am telling you that, I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but this showed up over downtown Kelowna about, in Canada, in BC, Canada, about 20 years ago. Okay, so do they still come? Yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar they do. Okay, now that was to start with. Now, of course, they colonized Mobius about 50,000 years ago, and then from that standpoint, okay, about 40,000 years ago, somebody came to the idea of, "Gee, I wonder what would happen if we were to just all of a sudden shut our hearts off, shut our physical hearts off." And we're going, and nobody thought about it. We hadn't done it. We were bored. Don't know if it was a human, an alien, doesn't know. Well, we know it was one of us. We didn't know if it was an adult, whether it was a child, male, female. We didn't know at all. Okay, and rest assured, even back then, the Mobians only had 2 physical genders. Okay, all we knew was somebody came up with the idea. So we went, 10 billion people, let's see what happens. Everybody, almost without exception, shut their heart off. Well, I'll tell you, we had 5 billion people dead like that. Okay, now, of course, some of us managed to survive, obviously. But while we were trying to do that, the ones that died, the buildings, and like I said, we had 200-story towers without even blinking about it. But if you take the middle 50 stories and they dissipate, they just all of a sudden cease to exist. The other 100 stories up top all of a sudden fell 50 stories, landing on the ones below them. Net result, in a matter of literally however long it took to fall, but we're talking in a matter of minutes, we had gone from 10 billion people to 5 billion, just like that. Okay. And then we had the fallout from it. You had starvation because we didn't know how to do anything. Okay. Didn't know how to deal with physical wounds. It was a case of, oh, you hurt yourself? Well, think yourself better. You'll be fine. Think about that for a moment and call me in the morning. This was exactly the same thing that we did when somebody lost an arm. It's like, well, no problem. You lost your arm, so make the thing come back. And that was just normal. Well, when this happened 40,000 years ago, we all of a sudden, everybody shut down communication because now we're terrified to talk to each other. And now we've got nothing to work with. Now, we had already gotten bored where we had started looking at physical artwork. But understand, physical artwork at the time was not a question of whether or not it was done right, whether it was really great. Somebody came up with an idea and took a flat slab of stone and took another stone and stacked it on top. This is what we called art. Okay, that was where we started again, just simply stacking one stone on top of another. Okay, and if somebody found a new way of doing it, there was no jealousy. It's like, how did you do that? I'd really like to be able to do that. It was a new way of exploring our senses. Okay. So when you're looking at that, we started building that. But of course, when this cataclysm happened, everybody cut down communication lines. Now, at that point, we didn't even really understand how to form words properly. Okay, because we had always talked telepathically for thousands of years. Okay, we had simply talked as you do, you think about it and you knew what the other person was talking about. But as we started developing languages, and developing communication lines, you ended up with people saying different things and referring to different things. Net result, you have all kinds of different languages evolving. Okay. So to this day, Mobians are still one of the few races that are 100% totally telepathic. The ones over on Mobius that are living there now do not communicate by verbal communication. They don't bother at all. Okay, in all fairness, and I'm not entirely certain, I've never actually asked, they may not even have vocal cords anymore. Okay, because it's not a requirement. But I've been watching the chat room here and I haven't noticed anybody say so. But have any of you guys seen this ship that I was talking about? Okay, this particular ship. Okay, not by license plate. Now I'm referring to configuration. Now, just going back up here. Are we the only planet that has another planet on the same orbit? In all fairness, Raven, I'm not entirely certain. I suspect not. I do know that where it comes to Earth was built very specifically with Mobius built as a balance point. Very much like the moon was built in place in order to help with the tidal maneuvering. Okay, they were very, very deliberately put in place. Now, Mobius itself, unlike Earth, okay, what you know as Earth, okay, what I know as who I know as Esau, is a Kaboran. She is alive, well, and somewhat annoyed. Okay, Mobius itself, aside from being built there, it is simply a balance point. Okay, it was put there to maintain a stable orbit here, to simply keep things running smoothly, because everything else had fallen apart one way or another. Okay, so can I say for certain that there are or there are not? By extrapolation, I can certainly tell you it makes sense that other planets out there have a twin in orbit. Much like there are some suns that scientists on Earth today have taken a look at and gone, hey, these two suns orbit around the same point. Okay, now it's a pretty, shall we say, complicated thing to go. It just happened to fall into into an absolute orbit of the same caliber without assistance. It is possible. Okay, but that I'm aware of, okay, that I'm personally aware of, I don't know of any that have that. Okay, but Earth is absolutely it's a very different planet from that standpoint. Okay, now I'm just scanning down here. I don't know how far behind we are by any means. Okay, but yeah, in all fairness, YJ, empathy itself, where it comes to the higher senses, is one of um the empathy is one of the most underrated and underappreciated, if you will, psychic senses available to mankind. Empathy enables you to feel what other people are feeling. It enables you to experience the world through their hearts, through their feeling. Okay. It also makes it possible to relate to what other people are going through. Okay. And if you cannot feel, this is where sociopaths run into a problem. If they cannot feel what's going on with somebody else, how do you possibly end up with a comprehensible interaction? It becomes complicated, to say the least. Okay, but you can absolutely live utilizing empathy as a way of moving forward. Okay, and like absolutely you can. Now let's just take a peek at something here. Well, I do that, that could cause problems. Now, when we take a look at, like Raven's just asking, what made the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter? Quite seriously, it was a number of things that made it happen. But ultimately, it was an accident. Okay, you're looking at multiple planetary impacts and several of the original planets that were built around Earth. Okay, ended up colliding, and this is one of the reasons why Mobius got put in place. Okay, because you got all these planets that are built and are orbiting this one star. Okay, and they were built by multiple different people. Oddly enough, mankind looks at it and goes, all of the heavens you see are made by one God. Well, in the extreme level, that's actually very accurate. But if you go in a more direct impact, okay, many of the planets were built by different spirits. Okay, and that asteroid belt you're referring to is the result of not calculating things properly. When you put one planet in orbit around the sun going this way, and somebody goes, well, I want my planet to go this way, and you don't take into consideration all of the ramifications, all of a sudden you've got planetary collision. Okay, so when you look at the story, the DC story of the origin of Superman, and how Krypton was a planet that used to sit there and got pulled apart by the stresses. Well, at least they used a basis in reality in order to come up with that. Okay, that is one of the biggest things that you have to look at. Is they did look at it, and those remnants, okay, are now caught in a stable orbit. Okay, some of them have drifted into the orbit around Saturn. Hence, we have the rings. Okay, but they're because of planetary, and let's not forget, you've got planets that are orbiting in different fashions. Okay, and then we have this neat little problem of an asteroid or a comet from somewhere else cutting through the middle of this and destroying a planet on the way through. Okay, now I do know of one case in particular, and in all fairness, I forget the name just offhand. There was a planet in orbit that was absolutely obliterated by the consortium, because the people that were there, what they did was they decided they were expanding their empire, their intergalactic empire, and they attacked a protected planet. They did it without sanction. Well, the consortium went, okay, well, first and foremost, you're out of the empire. We're just evicting you. They destroyed the primary seat of the primary governmental seat planet. Okay, they just blew it to pieces. Okay, then they moved, and then the consortium moved on and destroyed the seat of the secondary planetary government and the tertiary. Okay, net result, no more planets. Okay, no more race either, so they'd already been evicted anyway. But that is essentially where that asteroid belt comes from. Okay. Now, yeah, you are right, YJ. Even people that say they don't have feelings for other people and they cannot feel what other people go through, quite honestly, most of them actually do. Okay, most of them actually feel something. They just may not know how to articulate it. Now, I'm looking down here, and Joe goes, "Do the aliens know when the world will end before anything else?" All they know for certain is they've got more accurate calculations than what Earth does. Okay, but it boils down to an event, not the world just ceasing to exist. It boils down to the length of time that the sun will stay the sun and doesn't expand to the point it wipes out the Earth. Okay, but we are likely looking at trillions of years now. Not billions of years, but trillions of years of current Terran years down the road. Okay, so do they have a more accurate time frame? Yes. Can I translate it into one that makes sense to you? Heck, I can't translate it into one that makes sense to me. But I can tell you this: as the sun expands, the days of the planet of Earth will get longer. Okay, they'll also get a bit on the warmer side, likelihood. Although it is possible Earth will get pushed further out. Net result is it could get colder at the same time, which is a really enjoyable thing, not. Okay, now. Oh, absolutely, Raven. Okay, I don't doubt that. Raven's just asked. Well, in all fairness, she asked YJ, have you heard of Earth empaths? They feel when the Earth is ready to have a quake or blow up a volcano. And yeah, they very definitely exist. Okay. The neat part there is those same is variations on that same idea. You've heard of storm chasers that can feel when a tornado is shifting gears or when it is forming. Okay, they're living barometers. And absolutely, these people exist. They simply have an extension. They simply have an extended sense that enables them to do so. That's the nice part about it. Okay, these are people that have a natural gift, just like the people that have the natural gift of being able to heal by touch. Now, mankind centuries back decided the people that could do that were essentially, they were touched by God or whatever? Technically, the answer is yes. But then so are every one of you. Okay. Yeah, it's not a bit of a shock there, YJ. Okay. I remember I was working in a fairground, and I didn't get any 12 hours. I was standing on a fairground and was working the fair. And all of a sudden I stopped. I'm walking across the field. I stopped and looked up and I went, we're about to get hit. And everybody's going, no, that's not happening. It was a clear blue sky out. I'm like, we are going to get broadsided by a storm. Right. Well, about a half an hour later, because I was edgy and I knew it was coming. And all of a sudden, everybody's going, no, there's no storm coming. And then the wind started picking up. And somebody made the comment, oh, it's going to hit us head on. I says, no, it's going to clip us. Well, when's it going to clip? I says, well, you might want to anchor things because it's about to hit. And I reached out and grabbed the tent pole of my tent, grabbed the tent pole and pulled down on it. And meanwhile, a buddy of mine that I'd warned it was coming, he's running around nailing down, like really solidifying the anchor points for another tent. And I reached over, grabbed the post and went, it's going to hit right about, clip, yank the bar down a little further. Now, okay, 7 tenths went straight up in the air, flipped over and dropped. Okay, guy across the counter, his tent's all over the place. He goes, I thought you said you were psychic. I looked at him and I said, my tent's still standing. I personally don't like the term psychic. Okay. The one thing I will, the reality of it is, Raven, much as I'm personally, and I'm sure I'm pretty certain YG will agree with this. Okay. There is no way you're going to know which memory is going to trigger what. It used to be a case, somebody would just mention the MyLabs, and I would have a complete emotional breakdown. I couldn't tolerate even considering what was going on. Okay. And there is no way of really gauging for it. But we are in the middle, we are right on the edge of things changing very, very drastically. Okay. But we still have the capacity to turn it around, to actually make this world a better place for virtually everybody. Okay, but it is going to take some work. Okay, so I'm just looking at this and going, yeah, this world that is a weird world to say the least. Okay, it really is a weird world, but it has a certain amount of sense to it. And what you've got to remember is, for all of you that are getting these kind of odd senses, if something feels a little strange, now I wanted to take a look at that and I missed it. Now, I noticed this name here. Raven mentioned a name, Tiamat. Okay. Now, oddly enough, Tiamat is an actual entity. Nasty temper, not exactly the nicest communicator, but she is very much an actual entity that hopefully you'll never have to deal with, because I'll tell you, she's temperamental. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is changes taking place in our world at an incredible rate, and this is why. YJ. Just jumping ahead a fraction here. YJ's just gone. Need to learn to refine it, make the observable outcome projections make sense. Yeah, it's always isn't 2020 hindsight a wonderful thing? Okay. It's like when we got hit years ago, back in 2003. The Okanagan got hit with lightning storm. Hey, what do we got? Hey, Senior Pent, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Didn't actually see you come in, so if you came in earlier, sorry I missed you coming in, but that's kind of the way my world works. Okay, we'll get to that in just half a second there, Raven. YJ, let me just double check because I wrote it down. And I write things down because I've got the memory of a sieve on occasion. Where are we here? Oh, there we are. YJ, answer to your question, or answer to your issue of requiring developing your senses. Wednesday of this week, okay, on Wednesday of this week, we are going to be looking into psychic development that you can do at home to develop and to refine your senses. Okay, that'll be Wednesday, as in like 3 days here. Okay, so I do encourage you, if you're looking to develop your own psychic and what people are calling psychic. Okay, I simply prefer the term sensitive. Okay, but we'll be dealing with that in depth on Wednesday. Okay, as a matter of fact, while I'm doing that, I should have thought about this before sitting down. Tomorrow, on the 6th, we will take a look at what's taking place on the far side of the moon, on the dark side. Okay, and yeah, neat little problem. I don't have any proof. Okay, and you can bet your bottom dollar the government's not going to give you a whole lot of it. Okay, but on Monday we're going to cover that. On Tuesday, we're going to cover the link between the consciousness and the subconscious. And as a kind of a hats off to Nathan, we're going to go into the quantum realm as to how that actually works. Okay, hope you don't mind my stealing that from you there, or borrowing it from you there, Nathan. Then on the 8th, we're going to deal with developing your higher senses. Okay, specifically looking into what the link is between the higher senses, remote viewing, and clairvoyance, clairaudience, psychometry. All of these things are linked. But on Wednesday, we'll show you how. Okay, we'll explain that in a little more detail. Then, of course, on Thursday, I won't be here. But on Friday, we're going to delve into how to take your creative side and amplify it. Okay, these are just a few of the things that we are dealing with. Okay, that would be advisable, YJ, if you're ever talking, and this goes for all of you, if you're ever talking to somebody that is similar to me and tells you, I can see things beyond the norm, and they tell you, don't write it down. Walk away from them, hang up on them, whatever, but kill the conversation because they're useless to you, at least in my opinion. Absolutely make notes. Okay. And of course, on Wednesday's show, we'll be able to come back to it because it'll be recorded live. And I am not about to start charging people for the archives. Couple of reasons. Well, number one, I don't agree with it. Number two, I got no idea how to do it and less interest in figuring it out. Okay. Eric, how you doing? You seem to get involved in very long conversations. Like ours last night. I tell you, Eric, that was a great conversation that we had. Just took a very long, drawn out process there. Now, where are we here? Okay, Joe. Yeah. Yeah, Joe just got what? Let's just turn that back down a little so that it stops rolling on me. Joe goes, I've had dreams where I'd be outside in the summertime, and I've had to literally lay down on my stomach and look up on a bunch of on my stomach, look up, and a bunch of fighter jets would fly over and fly by, and bombs would start dropping. Kimberly, I absolutely agree with you. That is likely a past life being brought over. The fact that we're talking about fighter jets probably means that you're probably looking at either a past life or a lifetime overlay. Okay, where you've tapped into somebody else's. Because for fighter jets, we can't go back to World War II. You've got to be looking at the Vietnam War or something modern, or a past life on another world altogether. That said, still a very disconcerting feeling in a lot of cases. Okay, now, where are we here? Okay. YJ, I'm going to eliminate that that neat little idea. YJ says that could be a memory. I wonder if we can remember the future sometimes. The answer to that is an unequivocal, in my experience and my understanding, absolutely not. Okay, because the future itself has not occurred. Okay, you may be looking at something where you're going, gee, I wonder if this is a possible lifetime to work towards. But we are talking about planning on a subquantum level, not witnessing or not remembering something that already occurred. Okay, that's the biggest thing that you're looking at there. Okay, now there was a question I saw. I did, Greg. And again, this is just to remind people. When you have a question, because I just about lost this one there, Greg. When you've got a question, please do me a favor. Write it down, write it in all caps so I can find it. I just about missed it. But the answer to your question, Greg asked, why are we here? In a nutshell, we are all here for the same reason. We are all here to do two things. One, to experience the physical world, the physical realm of the third dimension in a corporeal body with limited senses. Okay. Now, through that experience, we are encouraged to experience this as a family unit. Family unit being two adults of any species, any gender, under one roof, co-governing as many other people as the two of you desire. Okay, as the two of you agree upon. So, I mean, from that standpoint, that is one of the reasons we are here. The other reason is to literally remember yourself. In other words, remember, as in find all the bits and pieces of what you are, okay, of where you've gone, and come back. Find your soulmate and all your soul family and bring them back to you. Now, the neat part of that is this. That exact question. Okay, this is where things got really screwy. Okay, this series. Now, the first three books coming out. This is the first one that came out, The Birth of the Wolf Pack. The End of an Epoch, which is this one. Okay, this is the sequel. These two are for obvious reasons, and obviously you can tell these two are already out. Okay, acquirable from me directly, and here's where. Okay, we go down here, and this is my website that will give you an entire explanation of the books. Well, a brief summary of them. Okay, that's the website. Now, ordering them directly, you can go through PayPal, okay, or if you're in Canada, and an email transfer to this. Well, an email transfer to this email address. Now, all of these books are in stock. Now, here's the thing. The third book in this series, okay, and I'll get into this a little more in a couple hours here. Well, actually about an hour and a half. But the third book, which is The Return to Paradise, I'm in the process of tying off. But when we come out with the fourth one, which is where it all began, this whole idea of a soulmate, of the whole purpose of coming here, is actually dealt with in relative detail. Okay. Yeah, we dropped that out. And where are we? Go back up here. There we are. So ultimately what you're here for, Greg, what every single individual, no matter what you're going through, is here for, is to experience the physical world and to remember everything that you are. Because there is not an individual in existence that is more spiritually valuable than the next. I just happen to have a whole lot more memories than many people do. And yeah, you can certainly turn around and go, oh, he's completely off his nut. But ask yourself this. Okay, and this is what my mom told me was why she believed what I've told her. Okay, was because it doesn't change. Okay, that's the reality behind that. Okay, but as you're putting your memories together, absolutely write them down. Okay, that's just the reality behind it. Write them down. It'll help you actually pull them together into a more stable pattern. I'm wondering, Eric. Manoa, which was on the northern shore of Crete. Okay, wonderful place, beautiful people. And then one day, Krakatoa, or rather Thera, went off, and I watched from up above Manoa because I was live at that time, and I watched the entire city get swept off the shore and pulled into the ocean. Okay, I watched from up on the banks above it. Okay, and I'm just wondering if it is possible. Well, it's obviously possible, but you're talking the Mediterranean. Manoa was wiped out, and I forget the exact year. I'd have to go back through my records. But Manoa was wiped out. Was wiped out by a tidal wave. And in case you're not aware, geographically speaking, Crete happens to be in the Mediterranean, at least from everything I recall. Okay, so that's where that ends up being. Well, thank you so much for joining us there, Kimberly. I am glad you did come in. Go rest your eyes nicely and, absolutely have a great day after that. Or before that, take your pick. Now let's just take a look here. Okay, just trying to, I'm not entirely certain how far behind we are, but again, guys, if you'd like to say like the stream and you haven't done so already, do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up and absolutely subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much there, Eric. I appreciate that. I think I've got that written down. But I'll tell you, that was not a good day to go swimming. But, when you take a look at that, okay, when we take a look at the way the world is sitting right now, well, I'm just looking at this. Okay. Yeah, you absolutely do, Eric. And this is why Eric's just saying he's got to tap into his creativity again. This was my idea of tapping into my artistic ability. As you can see, not great. Okay. But I'm going to go sideways on you here. Can't imagine me doing that. Now, just to be completely sidetracked here. Okay. You guys. Okay. Has anybody, if you've had a mark left behind that looks like an equal, like 3 dots in the form of an equilateral triangle, okay, with a bar across the bottom. Okay, and I'm talking about this particular item here. Okay, that kind of a mark anywhere on your body that you've seen. Okay, if you've had that kind of a mark, that is made by this funny little item here. This is what they call a dextrospanylizer. Okay, and it literally is a DNA extraction machine used for exactly the same, for implanting a chip at the same time to track what's going on with your biosystem on a subquantum level. Okay, that's just a totally odd piece of information for you just because. Okay, figured it was a good time to put it there. I am, by the way, this funny little piece of equipment. I'm going to talk to my artist that's dealing with all of this. The artist being Chris. Okay, it just dawned on me to get that to him and get him to do a drawing so that I keep all the artwork in Races of the Worlds as a consistent art. Okay. Yeah. Now, I will tell you, Raven, okay, these are the people that are using that particular machine. Okay. And this is why I apologize. Okay. Ever see somebody like this? Okay. These are the ones that utilize this. Oh, there you go. Okay. That is your grays, the zeta reticulums. The ones that developed the hybridization program. Or more to the point, essentially perfected it. Okay. And yes, I will be sketching things out as I go along. Okay. Yeah, nothing like throwing your day into a bit of a spin, eh, Raven? Where am I here? Right there. Okay, now where are we here? I will tell you, YJ, that's probably overstated. I understand your concerns about it, but considering the entirety of the planet is not going to go into absolute chaos, that kind of a comment really is overstated, at least in my opinion. So I mean, the one thing I do my best, the reason I do my best to keep things on the more positive side, there's all sorts of things I could look at and start talking about how everything's going to go sour. Okay, I will tell you, communication, as we get communication and creativity and the positive side of things more focused, a lot of the disturbance we come through. Okay. You're absolutely right, YJ. And this again is like YJ is going, creativity is an excellent way to let off steam. Sometimes if we can't talk about things to let off steam, writing a song or a story or art is just as therapeutic. Absolutely. It also has the advantage of nobody looking at you going, oh, I don't believe what you're saying, or overanalyzing to start with. Okay. Which is why when I started writing this saga, a lot of the questions that people are bringing up, okay, come down to a case of finding a way to explain them. And Senior Pent here. Well, I absolutely appreciate you joining us there, Senior. If you have a question, and I'm certain you've got a lot of them, anytime you come in, it doesn't matter what topic that we're running with. I run the streams with the idea of the questions. People have questions that require being answered. Okay. Now, I don't hold, in case you hadn't noticed, I really don't apologize for the way I look at the world. But I do acknowledge the fact that I should probably turn around and be a little more diplomatic on occasion. But if you come in and you've got a question, there's no real functional thing as a stupid question. Okay. And there are some that I will tell you really rank close. But if you've got a question, turn around and write the question in all caps so I can find it. Okay. That way I will do my best to answer it. And rest assured, most questions that anybody has, they are questions that other people listening in, either currently or down the road, will actually really do desire to hear. Okay. So, I mean, all in all, like this, I'm doing my best. And fortunately, I've got people in here that are absolutely fantastic at backing me up on it to make sure that people are treated equally together. Okay. So because there is nobody, myself included, is more important than the next. Some of us just have a different way of looking at the world. Okay. And this is why I decided I'm going to push the limits on this. And I'm going to sit down with Dave. I was supposed to do it today, but that got a little sidetracked. So I'm going to have to figure out how to get things moving, other parts of technology. Okay. What do we got here? When we take a look at the way the world is, okay, we have the ability to change the path it's on, but it's going to require the concerted effort of a major majority of people. Okay, there are a lot of people that come in here that are very disconcerted, that have suffered complications. Okay, that have had trauma that they don't understand. And I'm not here to tell you whether what you've gone through is the worst thing anybody has ever gone through. I can tell you horror stories from all over the world, or for that matter, all over the galaxy. I mean, nothing worse than watching a bunch of kids get explosively decompressed. This is not a fun experience, especially when you knew half of them. But the reality of it is that we have, this particular chat room, and we do apparently try and get trolls on occasion. I still prefer dealing with the trolls that, when you cut them, they regenerate and you carry on. Okay, haven't come across any in my recent game yet, but we are making headway in that department. So all in all, and where are we here? Look at that. We're hitting the end of a 2-hour mark. And I do that because, well, frankly, throat tends to seize. But here's the other thing. I really do appreciate you guys coming in and joining us. Okay, I absolutely do. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Okay, and your questions have been absolutely phenomenal tonight. So, that said, okay, I will be back in about an hour. Okay, because I'll be reading the what is it now? Of course, this is where I get up and go and walk over here just to double check. I write things down for a reason. Okay, now, today, when I come back in an hour, I will be reading the prologue and the first half of the chapter of The Birth of the Wolfpack. Okay, after that, if you've got questions, even if it's not on the book, okay, absolutely, I'll be back. Be more than happy to answer questions for you then as well. Okay, but until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.